Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we're going to talk about a couple of strange cases. The one we're going to talk about later, I believe, is an absolute hoax. It's something that people are claiming is occurring right now in California, Humboldt County, California, involving Oompa Loompa type humanoid creatures appearing in backyards. I believe that the story is a complete concoction, but yet some people on Reddit seem to believe it. But I don't think it's a true story whatsoever. However, I think it's important to talk about these things when they crop up because you don't want to see a story like this getting traction and only for a lot of people to look like fools when it's discovered that it is an absolute hoax. But the first story we're going to talk about, I don't think it is a hoax. I think it's something that really did happen because it was investigated at the back in the 1970s by the British UFO Research Association, or BUFORA, and there was an article that appeared in the BUFORA journal from February of 1978 about this incident that occurred in 1973 in Sandown, and that's on the Isle of Wight in the United Kingdom. And anyway, we're going to get into this article. This was something that was written back in 1978 by Norman Oliver, and we're going to skip through a little bit of it. We're going to get back to some of the stuff that's discussed earlier in the article later, but and I will leave links for everything so you can check it out for yourself. But this is a very interesting case. I've been aware of this case for a long time. I don't know what to make of it, but we'll talk about it as we go through it. Anyway, it says here, Sandown spaceman or ghost or golf links ghost, a blue-gloved hand. Faye, or so we shall call her. Faye, by the way, is a pseudonym for this little girl. She was about 7 or 8 at the time. Her father's name is Mr. Y. We'll talk about Mr. Y later on. That's just a short, just a letter. It's not. We don't know what his real name. We don't know who these people are. The reporters who investigated this, the UFO investigators, never revealed the names of the people. Anyway, it says, Faye, or so we shall call her, was near Lake Common, Sandown, on a Tuesday afternoon about 4 o'clock with a boy about her own age when they both heard a weird wailing noise not unlike an ambulance siren. They followed it across the golf links and through a hedge leading to a swampy meadow adjacent to a little-used Sandown airport. The noise ceased. As they were crossing a wooden footbridge over a narrow brook, a blue-gloved hand appeared from under the bridge and a strange figure emerged. The figure fumbled with a book, dropped it in the water, then splashed about to retrieve it. The two then watched the figure enter a metallic hut similar to those used on building sites, except that it had no windows. It moved along with a strange hopping motion with knees raised high. So apparently these two little kids heard this weird siren sound, and they went and they're trying to follow the sound of the siren, and then it stopped, but then they came across this wooden bridge that went across this stream, and in the stream was this weird tall being, fumbling around for what looked like a book, and then it jumped out of the water and then hopped in the strange hopping action over to this metal hut that had no windows. Anyway, then they started hearing more weird sounds. The siren sound started ringing again. It says the children wandered off and were over 50 yards away when the figure, which from now on will be referred to as he, reappeared carrying a black-knobbed microphone with a white flex attached. So basically a microphone that had a cord on it. And that's what it looked like to these kids. The wailing noise immediately returned, this time being so loud that the boy was scared and began to run away. The noise ceased, and he spoke into the microphone, he, the creature, and although so far off the children could hear his voice as clearly as though he were right near them. "Hello, are you still there?" he asked, and in response to what sounded a friendly tone, they ventured close enough to speak to the oddly attired person. And so this creature was 7 feet tall and it had no neck. For his head appeared to be wedged straight onto his shoulders. He wore a yellow pointed hat which interlocked with the red collar of a green tunic. A round black knob was affixed to the top of his hat, and wooden antennae were attached on either side. The face had triangular markings for eyes, a brown square of a nose, and motionless yellow lips. Other round markings were on his paper-white cheeks, and a fringe of red hair fell onto his forehead. Wooden slats protruded from his sleeves and from below his white trousers. His first communication was in writing. and he was holding this notebook, and in large hand he wrote these letters out, but the words were like scattered throughout the page. They weren't it wasn't written like as we would write. They were just words, and he pointed to each word, and the little girl read each word aloud as he pointed to them. And what he wrote was, "Hello, I am all colors Sam." The boy was hesitant, but Faye read each word as it was pointed to. This was necessary as the words were not laid out in a conventional sequence. The children ventured closer and discovered that the creature could talk without the aid of a microphone, though his lips did not move and speech was unclear, rather like that of a person who does not open his mouth properly. He asked the children about themselves, so they ventured to ask questions too. They asked about his clothes, which were all ripped, and he told them he only had one set, so he could wear those. Because of his strange white features, they asked if he was really a man. The answer was a chuckled no. They also asked if he was a ghost. The vague reply was, well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way. What are you then? They continued, but only obtained the answer, you know, with no further explanation. He also said he had no name. Okay, so basically whatever this thing was, this creature that these two kids encountered, he just assumed that they know. He says, you know what I am. Well, what was he? Was he trying to say that he's a clown? Or was he trying to say that you should know I'm an alien? The thought of an alien never entered the minds of these kids, by the way. Anyway, continuing here, it says, there were others like himself, though, and he drew a rough sketch of one of them. He also confided that he was frightened of people and scared they might hurt him. Apparently, if attacked, he would not fight back. At his invitation, the children crawled through a flap into his hut, which contained 2 levels. The lower had plenty of headroom and was wallpapered in blue-green and covered with a pattern of dials. It also had an electric heater and simple wooden furniture. The upper level was less spacious and the floor was metallic. He told the children that he fed upon berries, which he collected in the late afternoon. He didn't say where, but did indicate that he had a camp on the mainland he could go to. He also said that the water from the river could be drunk once he had cleaned it. Once inside the hut, he removed his hat to reveal round white ears and sparse brown hair. Before eating a berry, he performed an odd conjuring trick. He placed the berry in his ear, thrust his head forward, and caused the berry to disappear and reappear at one of his odd eyes, repeating the process. The berry traveled to his mouth. A possible explanation is written here by the author. It says a possible explanation could be that he was wearing some kind of protective mask and analyzing the berry to check it wasn't poisonous. The children talked to this strange being for half an hour or more. Then, after saying goodbye, they rushed across the golf links to tell the first man they met that they'd seen a ghost. He merely laughed, but the children were convinced of their experience and that the being was either a ghost or someone dressed up. That is the big mystery here. Was it a ghost? Was it somebody dressed up? Or was it perhaps an extraterrestrial, as some people later believed it was? Faye told her father of her experience some 3 weeks later on June 2nd, 1973. At first, he found the story quite unbelievable, but was amazed at the detailed account and Faye's certainty as to its truth. She was quite upset when he suggested she'd made it up or invented it. Yeah, that's the thing about what I find fascinating about this story. Again, you're talking about 2 young kids here, 7, 8 years old. And they're telling this story. How could kids make up this level of detail? I just don't know. I just don't know if that's possible. Mr. Y saw the boy, but found him not easy to communicate with, though he did get a statement from him verifying that he'd seen it too. Apart from make-believe, other possibilities considered included a shared hallucination and a deliberate hoax by someone. There was an extraordinary amount of detail, however, which included the further point that the creature clearly had only 3 fingers on each blue-gloved hand and 3 toes on his bare white feet, making a deliberate hoax somewhat difficult. And indeed, why go to all that trouble? Yes. This is one of the aspects of this story that always interested me. The fact that only had 3 digits on its hands, as well as 3 digits on each of its feet. However, of course, as a lot of people who listen to my podcast regularly know, I encountered a creature that only had 3 digits on its hand. Now, I don't think it was this thing, because this thing was 7 feet tall. And whatever was in my bedroom when I was a kid back in 1977, it was something shorter than that. But anyway, still, I have to make that observation that the thing that I saw had only three digits on its hand, and it wasn't like a human hand whatsoever. Anyway, continuing, it says, Mr. Y tells me that although bizarre, certain elements of the story rang true to him, and he also took account of the possibility of some connection with his own previous experiences. Summing up, he says, I get the impression that Faye was somehow taken into a bubble of alien reality created by this strange personage. He told him he had just made the hut. Also, Faye told me that while they were talking to this, quote, ghost, end quote, two workmen nearby were repairing a post. They paid no attention to the weird charade as though they could not see it. So, while this was all going on, while they were standing outside and talking to this creature, there were two guys on a telephone pole working on wires, and they were acting like nothing was there. They didn't see anything. Anyway, continuing, it says, well, ghost, spaceman, imagination, hoax, or hallucination. Take your pick. Just a child's make-believe? Perhaps, but there are a number of unusual elements in the story, and it is very detailed. Remember, too, that quite a percentage of reports of sightings come from children. The Welsh flap is a case in point. In particular, the box dropping incident and the humanoid report from Broadhaven School. One last point. Mr. Y visited the spot but could find no metal hut anywhere in sight, nor any indication of one. Not really surprising, no matter in what light one views the children's story. For, to make a comparison, how often are traces found in reported UFO landings? The case rests. So I find that very interesting that the father actually went to the site then, and where this incident occurred, and there was no metal hut there. Was the metal hut really just some sort of craft, and it was just made that in the kids' minds it looked like a hut, and the being itself was an extraterrestrial? And for all we know, there may have been other things that happened to these kids, and they don't know it, but this is the way they saw it. There were two people on a telephone pole nearby that, as far as they were concerned, there was nothing there. They weren't seeing anything. Apparently, they weren't even seeing the kids. The kids, the boy and the girl are there, and this weird-looking creature that was standing there with what looked like a microphone, 7 foot tall, with clown makeup on, triangles for eyes. Very strange story. And again, it was extremely detailed, which makes this story fascinating. No one's, has the bad part is that since this was reported, that's the last we've ever heard of anything about this case, because the people who investigated, they're no longer with us, so we'll never know who these people were unless they ever step up. I mean, those two kids would be in their 50s right now, if they're still alive. That would be interesting if they ever did step forward and provide us more details. But the reason why the father, Mr. Y, believed it was extraterrestrial is because he himself had weird experiences in the years leading up to 1973 and started in 1970 actually. It says here, and also one of the other reporters that looked into this was Leonard Cramp. He was somebody who helped advise Mr. Y to write to this Bufora about this incident, because Mr. Y, the father of this little girl, believed first. He came to believe that something most certainly occurred with his daughter. He just doesn't know what. But anyway, there were things that happened to him earlier. And on Tuesday, on the 20th of October, 1970, around 7 p.m., Mr. Y was driving from Shanklin to ride via Seaview to see a friend. Passing through the village of Bradling, he turned right to St. Helens, and then this is all on the Isle of Wight, too, the same place, to St. Helens, and then became aware of a large multi-lit aircraft to his right, about halfway between the road and Bembridge Downs. It looked enormous as it flew low over swampy terrain. He stopped the car and watched. The object hovered apparently aimlessly over the swampy margins of the River Yar. A wide ring of 7 or more lights could be seen, each of them a large and clearly defined sphere, like a bright red cherry, and interspersed with a turquoise and a white light. No sound could be heard. Our witness drove on, and the object flew parallel. Once outside St. Helens, it cut across about 300 yards behind him and dropped slowly, meandering above distant hedges, now appearing smaller with the number of red lights reduced to 4, which seemed to rotate slowly. Mr. Y again stopped, and this time used his torch, his flashlight, to signal for some 10 minutes, during which time the object weaved backward and forward without settling. He then continued on to his appointment. When he reached his destination, the red lights were still there, and he left his own rear lights on to face the object. Coming out of the house, his friend could see the thing also, playing hide and seek between the treetops. As he continued on to Ryde, Ryde is the name of a village, R-Y-D-E, just so people out there listening aren't getting confused. As he continued on to Ryde, the lights were lost to view, and our witness saw them no more. So basically, he did have a friend, though, that he was visiting, did see them as well. So it was two witnesses saw this weird object. On several subsequent occasions, he noticed single balls of red light in the sky which would hang stationary or follow him along as though checking his movements. But on March 1st, 1972, a considerably more frightening incident occurred. So the father, Mr. Y, of this little girl who would later experience this weird encounter with this being, was having his own experiences with UFOs. And the next thing that happened to him was extremely weird, and this was in March of 1972. It was between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., and Mr. Y was perched on the cliffside at Compton Bay, having been driven there by an unexpected tidal surge, seemingly caused, in part at least, by some form of droning underwater craft. From his vantage point, he observed 2 points of light, yellow and peering up at me like the eyes of some horrible sea monster. He guessed the eyes were not much more than 40 feet away and were just below the surface of the sea, like a sort of periscope. They disappeared, and as the tide gradually subsided, Mr. Y was able to get back to his car and drive home. At no time did he tell his young daughter of anything he had experienced, but at the beginning of May 1973, when she was 7 years old, she claimed to have had a very weird encounter indeed. And of course, she really did have a really weird encounter indeed. And you have to wonder, what was this all about? Why did this happen? What was that being that those kids saw? The 7-year-old and her young friend that was with her. What did they see? Obviously, to me, I don't think that those kids made that up. I'm not sure if kids are capable of making up a story that is that detailed. And the way the incident unfolds, I don't think you could make something like that up. I just don't know if you could. I think that what they encountered was some form of it was an extraterrestrial / non-human intelligent encounter. That's what I think it sounds like to me. And and these people that investigated, they found these people very credible. They actually interviewed not only the father but the kids as well. And you walk away with it scratching your head, wondering, okay, how do you explain this? You really can't. You really can't. I mean, and it's not like these people were making any money off telling a story like this. I mean, they didn't want their names used, but I mean, it was something that the father felt was significant, and he wanted to share it. He came to believe that it must have had something to do with his own experiences, and I don't have any other explanation for it. Who knows? I don't know what to say about it. It's just a very strange case, and I don't know. Was it a hoax? I don't think so. Was it a hallucination, a shared hallucination? I just don't think that's I don't see how something like that is possible with something like this. I just don't see how that's possible. Was it I guess there's one thing it could be. Was it some guy dressed up playing games on the kids, and they're just too young to understand what was happening? Maybe, but then what happened to the hut? The father, they went where the hut was, and it's not there. There are just too many strange things that surround a case like this. You can't prove it one way or the other, and it could turn out someday to be, maybe it is a hoax. Maybe they did hallucinate it. I mean, you can't prove anything with it, but to me, I think that it sounds like more likely than not something that what they described is what really happened, and we have no explanation for it. Was it an alien abduction that they made the kids think that it was just some weird guy in a clown suit that was able to do weird tricks by putting a berry in his mouth and having it come out his eye, or put it in his ear and have it show up in his eye and then show up in his mouth. Who knows? We just don't know. It would be nice to know who these people are, and if we could track them down. And even then, how could you prove it was actually those people that were interviewed back then, being that the people who originally investigated this are dead? We'll never know. That's the whole problem. But I do find that story interesting, and it is something that it has appeared in a lot of different books throughout the years. It's something that I've read about numerous times before. Okay, and that gets us now to this new story. Now, I'm going to have to cut some stuff out of this because, of course, I try to keep my podcast clean. And this involves two, what this person on Reddit claims, two Oompa Loompa type beings in his backyard who were getting it on. We'll say it that way, I guess. And this was the title. I can't even read the title, so I'm gonna show this the main post on screen here, but I'm gonna black out everything that's not nice. I'm gonna have it blacked out, and I'll leave the links for it so you can check it out for yourself. But again, this probably, I'm not sure, if you're at work, if this would be safe for work. The language that is used in this piece. But anyway, I think it should be addressed because it has been a popular post on humanoid encounters on Reddit since last week. And the title is Bald Oompa Loompas Blank in My Backyard in Humboldt County, California. Yeah, actually it's Arcata. Arcata is a little city there, a little village in California, and that's in this area. This is where apparently this is happening. But I'm going to explain to you why I believe this is all a hoax as we go through this. And here's what this person wrote. It says the event took place on 11/10/24 in Humboldt County, California, United States. I've been hearing this terrible chirping, screeching sound for the past 3 nights outside my window. Finally got sick of it, so I decided to investigate. Was expecting some dumb bird, but no. I turned my flashlight on and uncover what has to be the single most troubling spectacle to ever meet my eyes in my 29 years of life. 2 orange and very naked little creatures were doing it in the middle of my zucchini patch. Their eyes were beady and their mouths were agape in the way that turtles' mouths are agape when making love. Just an awful sight altogether. Our eyes met and they sat there for a second staring at me with what I can only describe as empty-headed surprise. Then, in an instant, the one on top leapt off and the 2 little blanks scurried away from sight in what felt like mere seconds. So, like, what the blank did I see? They literally looked like Oompa Loompas from hell. Anyone else seen anything like this, or am I just cursed? Now, of course, this post received lots of comments. Somebody wrote here, Honest Ty 1980. The person who posted this, by the way, is somebody who goes by the handle Expert Storm 1140. And Expert Storm 1140 just created this account for last week on the same day, apparently, that this was posted. And there was somebody else that created a similar account on Reddit the same day as this guy was posting this stuff. But anyway, here was one of the responses. Honest Ty 1980 says, I'm sorry, I know this traumatized you, but I couldn't help but laugh at how you worded the whole thing. Let's skip through this. I'm not putting this part on screen because a lot of bad language in some of these posts. Anyway, somebody else posted, another person, Mr. Glitchy McGlitchface, posted, you guys seem to be infested with these things. Some recent posts, somebody else was posting about this online too. And they had a drawing of one of these things. And this is what it looks like. This is a drawing of what one of these things looked like. Some people were trying to say they were little monkeys, perhaps tamarin monkeys. But apparently that's not what the witnesses are saying they look like. They're saying they look like little infants, the size of an infant children, but they were horrible looking. And they weren't covered with fur, but they were orange. Anyway, that's what it looks like. Somebody else wrote, and the Expert Storm responded to this saying, holy blank, that's them. Those are the little blanks. They even made the same face as the ones in that drawing. Oh my God. And then other people are responding here. Here's somebody named James Matt Dillon says, I'm in California myself. Wonder if I'll see one for myself. And then somebody else, Victor 4700 says, what the blank is happening here? Is this the veil lifting? The fire in the madhouse McKenna describes. I sort of wrote off the drawing, but now 2 more, seriously. So some people are actually acting like they believe this. And I don't believe it. Now, somebody else on the same day who has the name of the Arcata gnomes, they're calling it gnomes, has a picture of what he says, or what he caught. He caught a photo of it, and here's a picture of what he took of what one of these gnomes looked like. You can't really see anything here. Who knows? It could be anything. And here's what this person wrote on the same day as this other person that posted that other posting. It says, there have been at least 3 sightings of the Arcata gnome, or as others call it, the Arcata Oompa. Last night I visited the original sighting location where 2 pictures of the creature had been taken. I set up camp and waited. At around 3 in the morning I heard some rustling in the bushes and 2 distinctive chirps. I quickly took several pictures, this being one of them. Every other picture failed to capture the creature. Still, I believe the above picture is intriguing. The eyes, mouth, and nose holes can clearly be seen through enhancement. Anyway, and he says, later tonight I will return to the spot and try to capture more evidence. As you can see, you can't really see whatever this person is saying he saw. That's not what you're really seeing in this picture here. I don't see that. The Vegas aliens, this is not. Anyway, it says here, and somebody else was asking questions about this. I have to have closure on the Humboldt gnome saga. And somebody else asked, what is the saga? And then somebody else wrote this, and this is what I believe is going on as well. Filthy Mudblood says, it's a saga where a guy creates 3 alternate accounts and uploads photos he has created. This is a troll. Someone caught into it. This is a troll. Someone caught onto it in the cryptids sub, and now this guy is spreading his BS to other subs. Yep, and somebody else said the same thing. Little Bunny Sunny says, dude bro is trolling us with a close-up of a neglected nectarine or something. Yeah, this is fake, folks. But yet there are some people on here, if you check out these Reddit posts and you look at the comments underneath, you will see that some people fall for this. But apparently it's one person who's created multiple accounts and is trying to start something up here, basically what it is, it's a hoax. So this Arcata gnomes, or whatever you want to call it, Humboldt, bald Oompa Loompas, this is all somebody making this up to try to trick people, and some people are getting tricked. This is different than the other story that I read, that we talked about before. I just don't know. Again, you're talking about little kids. Here, you're talking about complete unknown people. Anybody who knows. For all we know, that the guy saying he's from California, how do we know? We don't know where they're from. They don't give their names. They just they put these things online, and some people fall. This is how people fall for things sometimes. It's unbelievable how the internet works. People you don't even know who they are, where they come from, and where they're at, and they post things like this, and people fall for it. Like it seemed like to me there were a lot of comments in here where it seemed people believed this without really doing any investigation, just taking the guy's word for gospel. Now one of the things, and here's the thing about it too, is that this subreddit, humanoid encounters, they don't want fiction. And they say this is one of the things one of their rules. It says, we know these stories are 98% unverifiable, but we want to keep an open mind that these encounters really happened to these people and want to hear what they have to say. We sometimes do take a lighthearted approach to some reports, but we feel they are no less important than the more serious ones. So you have to keep that in mind when you're reading through humanoid encounters on here. Now, sometimes there are some really good and credible reports on here sometimes. Sometimes there's a lot of good classic cases that have been investigated by serious UFO investigators, and that's great. But this, we don't even know. I don't know how people could fall for something like this. You don't even know who it is. Yeah, I mean, I could turn out, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I think this is obviously all of a sudden these accounts all got created around the same time, and here we are. People are saying, "Oh yeah, I saw it too," and it's actually the guy's answering himself. Oh, that he's talking about the drawing that somebody else put on there, right? And really, there was an account that was created on the same day that he created his. So how could anyone believe any of that? I don't know, but they do. And I just wanted to point that one out because I think it needs to be, it needs to be exposed for the hoax that it most likely is. Okay, moving on. I want to get caught up on some of the recent Spotify polls that I conducted, and we're going to start with for the episode Elizondo faces backlash after presentation of mothership UFO image / Manhattan alien abduction update. I asked this question: should Lou Elizondo get behind the Las Vegas alien evidence? Now I know I talked about this one before, but there's more votes on it now. 48 votes with 10 days left. 16 people or 33.3% say no, while 32 people or 66.7% say yes. Yes, I agree with the majority on this. Yes, he should. He should, because that's the best evidence we have, the best proof we have to show that there is most certainly a non-human intelligent presence on this planet. No question about it. Better than anything. Better than any proof that we have right now. That's within the public domain. That is something that should be talked about at one of these UAP hearings that they're conducting in these House subcommittees. Anyway, for the episode, UAP Disclosure Act is must-pass legislation, says former DOD Obama appointee. I asked this question: will the UAP Disclosure Act be authorized this year by federal elected officials? 44 votes so far. 14 people or 31.8% say yes, while 30 people or 68.2% say no. Unfortunately, I have to go along with the majority on this one too. I have to go no, because I haven't seen any action. But you never know. I'm not going to give up yet. I hope it is. I hope it's yes. I hope that they do enact it, but I don't know. It doesn't, so far, I haven't heard much. There's been some talk that it might, but seeing is believing, I guess. All right, for the episode, how will the Pentagon justify lying about ETs and UFOs for 80 years? I asked this question: when will the Pentagon acknowledge that there is an extraterrestrial/NHI presence on Earth? 40 votes so far. Okay, let's see. 2 people or 5% say this year. I don't know about that one. 4 people or 10% say 2025. Another 4 people or 10% say no earlier than the year 3000. 5 people or 12.5% say 2026. 12 people or 30% say never. And 13 people or 32.5% say by 2030. Which one do I agree with the most? We really don't know. This is all guesswork. 2025. Why not? Let's say 2025. Let's say 2025. I'm going to start pushing the envelope myself on this. I'm going to try to make stuff happen myself. So let's say 2025. I'm confident. I'm confident. So I'm going to go with that one, 2025. All right, for the episode, if this is the reason ETs are here, we're in big trouble. Okay, I asked this question. Do you believe it's possible that extraterrestrials are here because of fears of what the human race might do to them in the future? And there's been 52 votes so far. And this is pretty close. This is interesting. 24 people, or 46.2%, say no, while 28 people, or 53.8%, say yes. So that's pretty close to a tie, but not quite. The yeses have it by 4. Yeah, I actually agree with the majority on this one. I do believe it's possible that they're here because of fears of what we might do to them in the future. I mean, look at us. We are a very, very violent species. So, yes, I mean, they could see that the writing's on the wall and that we are advancing continually, technologically. And at some point, we may get pretty close to where they're at. Probably never reach where they're at, but we'll get close enough where we could cause them some harm. And so that could be a concern on their part. So I do believe that that's a possibility. Anyway, so yes, I do agree with the majority on that one. And then finally, for the episode UAP House Committee hearing with Elizondo, Gallaudet, and company, I asked this question: of the choices below, which best describes the latest House Committee hearing on UAP? Okay, there was only 2 choices, and this is pretty close to a tie as well. 19 people, or 47.5%, say a nothing burger, while 21 people, or 52.5%, say a significant event. I agree with the majority again. I think it is a significant event. I think it, regardless that we got nothing out of it. I mean, we got something out of it. We just didn't get any absolute end-all proof that, that anyone presented to the people. But the fact of the matter is, it's significant because you have former government employees basically testifying, and, including Tim Gallaudet, who was a rear admiral in the United States Navy, testifying that there's a cover-up, that they're covering this all up. And so, yes, it's a significant event. I mean, we just don't. This is we don't have a lot of this on the record. We don't have a lot of hearings like this. So most certainly, it's a significant event. I know a lot of people most certainly picked Nothing Burger because they're expecting, end all evidence to be presented. But here's the good thing. Just think about it this way. We already have presented the end all evidence with regard to at least these creatures being here. We all know that the government's lying about this, and the Pentagon continues to lie about it. We all know this, right? We've talked about this ad nauseum on this show. We all know that for a fact. I mean, so you have these people testifying under oath saying, yeah, there's a cover-up, and they're not telling you the truth about UAP. Just recently, we had a Pentagon spokesperson standing in front of a gaggle of reporters, and he's telling them that, there's no evidence of extraterrestrials. So we know that the Pentagon's still lying about it because you have these people testifying under oath, right? We have, you think about this, back earlier this year, the Jennifer Granholm, the secretary for the Department of Energy, testified under oath, right, that all she said was the Department of Defense has said that there's no proof of extraterrestrial UFOs or extraterrestrials in the United States. That was her statement under oath. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, of course, the Department of Defense says there's no evidence. She didn't say what she knows, though, right? See, this is how they cover themselves when some of these people are testifying under oath, right, about this subject. The people that are in charge, the people are in the Department of Energy or the Department of Defense. It's so funny, isn't it? How they're able to just get around the question. I mean, what if I would have been there? I would have said the Granholm. I would have said, hey, no. I'm not worried about what the Department of Defense says. I want to know what you say. Do you know personally? Right? Because you would have to imagine. I mean, I've said it before that there's a possibility that Granholm knows nothing. Right, but then again, why would after further thought, I'm wondering why did she have to use that statement? She says the Department of Defense says there's no. Yeah, this Department of Defense has been saying that. Yeah, but why did she have to say that? Why couldn't she give us what she believes? Like, that's what I would have said. I would have said to her, "What do you know? Do you know anything?" And then it would be interesting to see what her comment would be then under oath. What would it have been? No comment, or would it have been no? Or would it have been yes? I don't know. You have to watch that. That's a game of semantics going on here a little bit, I believe. But yeah, was it a Nothing Burger? Okay, in a way, I could understand why some people believe that because there was nobody brought out a Roswell alien corpse, right, or a piece of wrecked UFO. Okay. So it's a Nothing Burger. All we have is words and information that a lot of us already know about, right? I mean, there were some new revelations there with this Immaculate Constellation document and all that. But again, that's still just a document. It's just words on a paper. Who wrote it? We don't know. Is it real? How could you tell for 100% sure? You don't know. I understand. But the fact of the matter is those people were testifying under oath, and they're saying that these things are not from this world, basically. That's what Lou Elizondo was saying. There's something here and it's not from this world. And he testified under oath to that fact. So yes, to me, that's why it's a significant event. That's a statement being made under oath to the American people. So that to me is significant. And also, what's even more significant, though, is the fact that we actually have the evidence now. We have proof in the public domain that shows that there are creatures here that aren't human, as a lot of us here know. There's no reason to get into it all again right here and now. But I'm going to continue to push that evidence. I'm going to start throwing it in some people's faces in high places, and we're going to move this. We're going to move it forward. It's not over yet. Right, the proof is there now, and at some point, the mainstream media, along with people in government, are going to have to start trying to answer questions with regard to this, one way or the other. I mean, it's going to be interesting too when it finally does happen. Right, when people in government are presented with questions, direct questions about absolute proof that we have here, right, that we could show them and say, hey, what about this? I want to hear what they have to say. I want their answers. I want to know what their answers are going to be for that. That's going to be interesting. So as time goes forward, folks, you could rest assured that this subject is not a done deal yet, and we are going to get disclosure. I can promise you, one way or the other, right? Something's good. People are going to start answering some questions here in the government about this. right? They're going to be put in a corner, and they're going to be asked questions about it, and we want to know. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. And if they try to lie, right, we'll be able to expose that they are lying. And I can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to it. The future is bright, folks. There's nothing to worry about. Disclosure is coming. In fact, you already know that it's real. A lot of us here, if you've been paying attention to this podcast for the last 8 months, you know for a fact, right? A lot of you out there understand for a fact, right, that we have the proof, right? We have the proof, right? It's undeniable. Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.